by the way, will play Saturday against Kansas. Jason King, Sikkim365.com, college basketball analyst and writer. He's going to be there for that game, joins us on the show. Jason, I don't know about Agbaji, whether he plays Saturday. Kansas won without him. Baylor obviously has been kind of trying to gut through about a month or so period with players in and out of their lineup as well. Your thoughts about these two at the top of the Big 12?
Well, I think even if Agbaji plays, and he probably will, it'll be interesting to see how he does if he's had to sit out the past, 4 or 5 days. And if he did have COVID, how bad did he have it? That's he might be the National Player of the Year right now. So that's obviously a huge loss for them. But, I definitely think Baylor has to cross its fingers that at least one of the two, Cryer or Flagler goes up and plays, and not only plays, but plays at a high level, for them to have a chance to win. At the same time, as I've covered Kansas a long time and followed that program for a while. And I think this is a good Kansas team, but this isn't one of Bill Self's best teams. It's not one of his top 10 best teams, maybe even top 15 best teams. When they lost to Kentucky last week, when they got hammered by Kentucky at home, Bill Self's main comment was, we're just not as good as them, just personnel-wise. We just don't have the players. We don't have the athletes or flat out the talent that Kentucky has. And I think a lot of ways you could say that when you compare Baylor and Kansas. I just think Baylor's players are better. I think the talent's better. I don't know who Kansas has that can match up with Matt Meyer if he's playing well. He could be an X factor. So I really like Baylor's chances if they get Cryer or Flagler.
I've just been told by my girlfriend that I'm not allowed to comment on this topic because she's a big Kansas fan. Jason, she was upset at that. They're not the one of the better Kansas teams, but I do wonder this though: if Flagler and Cryer aren't there and Agbaji's not there, is Baylor still better off to beat Kansas, given what we saw from Kansas the other night?
If all those players are out, I would still probably like Kansas's chances. Not having Flagler or Cryer, that's about what, 28 points on the bench. You're just not getting it. It was good enough to beat West Virginia at home. I don't know if that's good enough to win at Allen Fieldhouse. That's another X factor is, that's going to be the best environment they play in all year, except for maybe Texas Tech. What we saw the other night in Lubbock, that's a pretty rowdy place right now too. But it's going to be hard to win up there on the road in that environment without two of your best guys. So, we'll see. But, as far as it's being Kansas's, where does this rank among Kansas's best teams? When you think about all the good players that have gone through there, whether it's, Mario Chalmers, Brandon Rush, the Morris twins, Sharon Collins, Devontae Graham, Frank Mason, so many of these big names. I just don't know if, from a personnel standpoint, if Kansas has guys like that right now. A lot of that's because of the NCAA cloud that's been hovering over their head for a long time. I think it's really hurt them in recruiting. Even Kendall Brown openly said, he might have been going to Kansas if it wasn't for that. So I think you're seeing a little bit of that. I was impressed with how they played against Iowa State in Ames without Agbaji. They really rallied around that adversity and found a way to flourish. I'm not sure Iowa State's the team we thought it was, but that was still a really nice win, an impressive win.
What do you think about the way that Matthew Meyer closed that game the other night, Jason?
Man, what a welcome sign, huh? I was, I was really frustrated watching him play in the first half, especially, when he goes and misses 4 free throws in a row. One of them barely even grazes the front of the rim. Then he goes and fouls a guy on a 3-point shot. I was just like, is he checked in? But all of a sudden it's just like, Clark Kent took off his suit and the cape came out, and he came out and basically won the game for him. And, when he's good, he's really good. He goes from a 8 to a 12 real fast. And, it wasn't just the 3 that he made and the putbacks that he had. Had a really nice pass I thought he made on another 3 that someone hit, played good defense. And I really do think for them to win up there this weekend, it's going to take him playing at a high level. I'm not saying he has to score 30 points, but he needs to go out there and play 28 to 30 minutes in that game and finish with 15 to 17 points and make some big shots to quiet their crowd. That's the thing about Kansas. You don't want their crowd to get in it to get loud and where you can't hear and the floor starts shaking and you don't want to end up peeing down your leg, but if he goes out there and makes some shots to kill the crowd, because I just don't know who they have that can match up with him personnel wise. They don't have a big guy that can chase him around that has that kind of height and can stop him, I don't think.
what are your thoughts about who is probably more of a polarizing, and I mean that in a love-hate relationship, whether they're struggling or making mistakes or they're leading Baylor to something, James Akinjo or Matthew Meyer?
Probably Matt Meyer, as far as just polarizing, because I always like what I see from Akinjo. Like I like the look I see in his eye. You know what I mean? I mean, something it kind of, to me, that makes some of his mistakes forgivable. I just feel like he's so competitive, and sometimes he might be trying a little too hard to make something happen when he should pass or whatever. But I just like his fire and his competitiveness. Sometimes with Meyer, I just feel like, he might not be as locked in. And I'm not at all attacking this guy's character or anything. I love Matt Meyer. He's great. But I mean, again, the first half the other night, you just don't see Akinjo have halves like that where it's just kind of like, what are you doing? You know what I mean? And I felt like that was with Meyer the other night. So I like both of those guys, though, and they're a huge reason for Baylor's success.
I think to maybe put a finer point on it, if Matt Meyer ever gets as cold-blooded as a guy like James Akinjo can be, or his predecessors like Butler or Davion Mitchell could be, then he's going to be super dangerous.
He almost unstoppable, I mean, just like it's hard to explain, but I mean, there's just times when he lets it go. I just know it's going in because he's hot, when he gets that hot, when he gets that feeling going. And it's not just on the threes. It's just, when he's driving the ball, when he's shooting the followays, when he's driving in for dunks. I mean, he has those moments where it's just like, wow, this is one of the best players in America. And it's hard to do that all the time, obviously, but man, like I just always will remember that West Virginia game last year in Morgantown that basically won them the Big 12 championship. And he's had several moments like that, and hopefully he can have one on Saturday. I do feel like sometimes he thrives in situations where Baylor is fighting the odds, when their backs are against the wall, when they have injuries, when they're on the road in front of a tough crowd. I feel like he does well. If you think about it, if I remember correctly, last year was kind of a turning point for him in Lawrence because they went up there and they got beat real bad. He did not play much, I believe, and when he did play, didn't do anything. I think Scott Drew got real frustrated with him and didn't really play him. And I think it was after that game when he kind of had the infamous conversation with Scott Drew and said, listen, like, you got to let me play through mistakes. You can't yank me out every time I miss a shot or take a bad shot. And you got to let me kind of get in there and get a flow. And I think things really changed for him after that game in Lawrence. I think it might have been the very next game when they played West Virginia, and he had that big outing. So he'll probably be looking really forward to getting up there and getting another shot in that environment.
What are your thoughts when you see like the free throw numbers like the other night, less than 50%? I mean, is that something that you really grow concerned about? Is that something you just chalk up to being just part of the deal? That's just that night and not something how do you view that?
Yeah. Well, I mean, gosh, 0 for 7 to start. I mean, that's just something you don't see it even in a little league game for the most part. I mean, I'm trying to think of my son's games. He's 12. I don't remember many 0 for 7. So I just hope that's a fluke and something that we're not going to see very much. I think sometimes, especially with Meyer, that it seems like they kind of go up there and rush those free throws. But I think for the most part, the guards are pretty good free throw shooters. Akinjo, Flagler, Cryer. And those are the guys you want with the ball in their hands at the line. So I don't think it's a huge factor for Baylor overall as a team, but definitely something they got to improve on a little bit. Did I lose you?
You did.
No, you didn't. Jason, when you look around, Smoak, you back?
I'm here. I'm good.
Okay. Yeah. But no, when you look around the Big 12 and especially that Texas Tech game last night, do you see any more separation, or are Baylor and Kansas and Tech, have they not really separated yet? Are they still waiting to hit that gear?
I think they're close to being there. I mean, I still don't want to write off Texas just because I know how talented they are. And I'm just keeping in mind that, they've got a new coach that has brought in a lot of transfers. So not only do they have a new coach, they have a lot of new pieces. And I think he's a really good coach and can have them playing a lot better than they are over the next month. So I think they might still be in the mix, but I think those are the four. And I think it's kind of anyone's game right now. Baylor just losing those 2 games at home. I mean, that's just a dagger, But thing about Kansas, I mean, I don't know how much better Kansas is than everyone though. I mean, they look at all these close games they won. They won by at the buzzer against Iowa State at home. They needed double overtime to beat Texas Tech at home on a night when McCullough and Shannon didn't do anything. I think they had a close game against Oklahoma. They had to come back from 17 to beat Kansas State. So they've definitely shown a lot of character and a lot of fight, and that's impressive. But I don't know how much separation that they have between like a Baylor or a Texas or a Texas Tech. So I think it's kind of a 3 or a 4 team race right now. And I like this league. I mean, and it's competitive and it's fun because there's so many close games and you never really know who's going to win. But I don't know, how many elite teams are in this league outside of maybe Baylor and Kansas. Yeah, I guess Texas Tech. But I think it's a good league in terms of parity. But I just don't know how many Final Four contenders you're seeing in it right now.
Jason, what are your thoughts about what Shaka Smart, a win last night against Villanova? He's racked up one after another impressive win at Marquette. What he did at VCU, what he couldn't do at Texas, and now he's doing it at Marquette.
Yeah, I think I saw a stat today that he or Marquette and Baylor and a handful of others in Kansas are tied for the National League in quadrant 1 wins, which is what they use to seed people in the tournament. I mean, I'm glad for Shaka. I think he's a good coach. I think sometimes it's just about going and coaching where you're a good fit. I mean, just because you're a good fit and successful at VCU doesn't mean you're going to do it at Texas. Just because you didn't do it at Texas doesn't mean you can't do it at Marquette. I think he's up there playing a blue collar style, and back to his, coaching the kind of style that works well for him, the style that worked well at VCU. Shaka Smart, the style that he likes to play, that havoc, 40 minutes of hell defense. Sometimes when you're signing McDonald's All-Americans that only want to be in school for a year, they don't want to come in and play that. It's hard. They're not going to play it in the NBA. It's, defense oriented. They want to go out and score. But so I just don't know. I always questioned how that was going to work at UT. And it appears to be working at Marquette. So I'm a little surprised, to be honest, that he's doing so well in his first year, but happy for him because I really like him.
Jason, what are your thoughts on West Virginia and Bob Huggins right now? It has been a big struggle. They find themselves at the bottom of the rankings after losing their 6th straight. I know he talked the other day about, getting out of a funk, but they haven't managed to get out of it just yet. Why is that? And what do you think about West Virginia?
Well, I really like Bob Huggins, and I've always respected his teams. I thought it was funny, though, to hear him complain about officiating and not getting calls when for years, I mean, we've watched West Virginia just maul teams up and down the court with those physical guards and stuff. And hey, credit to them, it worked. But if anyone has gotten screwed over by the officials in West Virginia games, it's their opponents. So that was funny. But I don't know. I mean, I don't think that they're as bad as their record. And I know that they've dealt with some injuries and some COVID issues through the year. Taz Sherman's a special player. That was a hell of a performance the other night. I definitely think that their chances of making the tournament are gone right now. But, it's just, this is kind of, I guess, their year to be toward the bottom. But I don't really think it's a reflection of him or his coaching. It's just a combination of bad luck and not having all the pieces they need.
Jason, thank you, man. Appreciate it. Jason King.
Okay. Thanks, guys.
Yes, sir. Sikkim 365 Radio's basketball writer, analyst, national writer as well. He'll be at the Baylor-Kansas game on Saturday. When we come back,